This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Welcome to Late Boomers, our podcast guide to creating your third act with style, power, and impact. Hi, I'm Kathy Worthington.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Join us as we bring you conversations with successful entrepreneurs, entertainers, and people with vision who are making a difference in the world.
Everyone has a story, and we'll take you along for the ride on each interview, recounting the journey our guests have taken to get where they are, inspiring you to create your own path to success. Let's get started. Hi, this is Kathy Worthington. Welcome to our latest edition of Late Boomers. Today we have as our special guest, Lauren St. George, who is a coach and a consultant. She helps companies and individuals navigate change, overcome challenges, and imagine truly creative solutions. Lauren is the founder of What's Next, a one-of-a-kind, highly engaging program that helps people figure out their best next chapter.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Lauren has discovered that the need for change is often triggered by a major life event, such as divorce, grief, empty nester, or retirement, or feeling stuck and unsure of what to do next. Lauren has helped hundreds of people find their solutions. We look forward to finding out all about some of her methods. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you both. It's lovely to be here.
Great to have you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led to your discovery of this life path for yourself?
Oh, I'd love to. I think for me, it's been a sort of culmination of my career thus far. I started off in branding and marketing, and found a niche working with innovation departments within companies, which led me to this degree that I got, this master's degree in creativity. A lot of people think of creativity as the ability to write or to draw, to do those sorts of things, but creativity at the end of the day is the ability to solve challenges. And so it's the science of how we naturally solve challenges. And so I got really interested in that, and that became something that I consult with businesses. But I found that the methodologies that I was using with businesses worked equally well for individuals. And it took my mom saying to me that she retired early at 55, that she wished she'd spent more time thinking about what she was retiring to versus what she was retiring from, for me to go, I wonder if I could put something together that could really help people decide what their next chapter is, using my what I've learned to date. And so What's Next was born from that.
I think that's
great.
amazing, and I didn't know you could major in creativity or get a master's in creativity.
There are not a lot of programs around that do it, but yes, there is.
Wow.
Yeah.
There is fun.
Yeah,
Um,
that's just really engaging. I'm ready to go.
it was definitely I found my tribe. We had a mixture of people that were self-employed business owners. We had people who came out of corporate, and then we had people within the teaching field, because I think we found that with exponential change that's happening in the world, that my children are going to do jobs that don't exist today. And so how do we prepare people for what's coming? And one of the major things that I think organizations are looking for is creativity, is that ability to think outside of the box, to solve challenges that no one knows how to solve, and to really come at things from different angles. And so it brought this really interesting group of people together who are all interested in learning, more about those methods.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, what are the 5 simple questions we have to answer to transform our lives?
They're simple, but they're not easy. A lot of what I do I try to make the process and the tools as easy as possible, but they're not easy because it requires one having to be vulnerable and honest with yourself. So I think it starts with really asking yourself, where do you want to be 3 years from now? And I don't say 1 year, because we tend to overestimate what we can get done in a year. And we tend to underestimate what we can do in 3. So I like to, ask people to think further ahead so that you give yourself the time to get there. Because I think we have to be open to the fact that we're going to learn things along the way. We may change our plan. Life happens. So, give yourself the time to get to whatever that next milestone is. And I think once you start to look at, where you want to be 3 years from now, you really need to look at, where you are today, and where you'd like to be, and look at your life from every possible angle. So the relationships in your life, your health and wellness, your career and finances, intellectually, are you stimulated right now, or do you need to figure out things for that? For some people, it's their environment. You're living somewhere that you actually love to be, and your spiritual life. For some, that's religion. For others, it can be uh, meditation or yoga, or just finding time for themselves. Right. So I think once you know where you're headed, then you can start to plan how you get there. So the next question is, why is this important to me? To me, the most important question to answer is the why. Because if you don't know what's motivating you to actually achieve a goal, then you're never going to get there, because it becomes the fuel in your tank that when things get difficult, or when you have a setback, if you understand really what's driving you, and that takes peeling back the layers and really being honest with yourself about what's driving you. That to me is the most important question, is the why. And then once you know where you're going, you know why you're going there, then you need to look at what's in the way. What are the obstacles? What are the challenges? What are the things that could prevent you from getting there? And you look at them from, I like to sort them into small, medium, and large. What are the things I could easily overcome? What are the things that are going to take a little bit more time and effort? And what are the things that might be insurmountable, or they're so large I need to figure a way around them, right? And then tackle them whichever way you prefer. I like to tell people to start with the smaller things, because as you start to get some wins, you continue to keep yourself motivated to keep going. And then the next question is, how do I overcome those obstacles? So you start to solution, you start to think about, which ones do I want to tackle? Now, you certainly don't want to look at some long list of all the stuff. You want to try and prioritize it and go, what's the most important things that, if I can overcome these things, is going to move the needle, right? And I'm going to see the progress. I'm going to feel like I'm moving forward. And then, how do I stay motivated? Is the next question, because motivation is a cycle. It ebbs and flows. There's days we feel more motivated than others, and so I think we need to be compassionate with ourselves. That it's not always going to be easy. Some days getting out of bed is enough, right? And then on the days that you have that energy, what are you gonna tackle next? What's that one thing you can do to keep yourself going forward? And so I like people to start off with simple, like 2-minute things that they can do, so that you are starting to already feel like you're progressing forward. So, for instance, if you want to start to take up yoga, a 2-minute thing might be, I need to go and find my yoga mat. Simple as that. Today I'm going to go find my yoga mat. Tomorrow I'm going to find a yoga class that I want to go to. And so, just starting to incrementally do those things, you'll get to where you want to go.
That's
You
great.
really have to know yourself, don't you, to actually proceed with these questions and answers.
You do, and I mean that is partly why I started a program, right? Because I do it as a group coaching, and you need accountability. So I do recommend that you find at least someone in your life that's there to kind of, to lean on occasionally to help you do things. I mean, if you have someone who's going to go to the gym with you, you're that much more likely to show up, right? You don't want to let that person down in the process you're getting yourself to the gym. So those opportunities when you can find accountability. I've had people who've, they've put it out online that they're starting to train to do a triathlon. Now they've put it out there, so they know people are going to start asking them how they're doing. So whatever ways you can find accountability in your own life, I think is helpful, and it's part of how you can stay motivated.
Well, why do you think people fear change, and how do they overcome that fear?
Oh, that's a big question. Fear
Yeah.
change. I think change. I think at the end of the day, my belief is our brain is a tool, and we have the ability to use it for good or for bad. We also have the ability to program it and put things into it that help us to get to where we're trying to go. So I think when you understand how your brain works, you're in a much stronger position to get to where you want to go. So change is really it's your brain is trying to keep you safe. We have a part of our brain that's considered like our primitive brain. It's our earliest brain that we had, and it's all about that's where fight and flight live. So when you perceive a threat, fight or flight kicks in. So now we're not being chased by woolly mammoths anymore. Thank goodness. But anything from as something as simple as a new idea or something that looks like change can be seen as threatening, and we go into fight or flight. Our brains are designed to keep us safe at the end of the day. And so keeping to patterns and things that make us feel safe is the way your brain's going to want to go. So when something that even can be really exciting to you comes into your life as a potential change, your brain is naturally going to fight against it. And you'll hear that little voice in your head that goes, "No, I can't do that. No, that's not going to work." Or whatever that inner voice starts to say. And so I believe that if the first step is understanding that that's how you're wired, and to listen out for that voice, because you don't have to listen to it just because it's there. Our inner voice isn't always our best friend. And so I think fear of change is partially that we're biologically programmed to try and stay as in our comfort zone. And the comfort zone is safe, but it's not where we grow. It's not where we learn. It's not where we progress to that next stage of life. So to me, that's where change, that sort of fear of change lives. And so there's a myriad of things you can do to work with that. I think asking those 5 questions, having a plan on how you're going to achieve that change, breaking it down into small, doable steps, making sure you reward yourself and celebrate the wins as you have them. All are things that can take some of that fear out of the equation because you're doing it incrementally, you're doing it at your pace, you're doing smaller steps, and you have a plan. Because oftentimes that fear of change is also connected to risk. Am I going to get it wrong? That fear of failure comes in. And so
Yeah,
if
that's
we,
what I wanted to ask you on the next my next thought was, how do you take that first step when you're afraid you'll get it wrong?
well, part of it I think is a mindset shift. It's thinking of it more like an innovator. You're experimenting, you're trying things. Um, we were taught in the education system that we need to get the right answer the first time. We've come out of a system that really rewards you for the A's. It doesn't reward you for the failures. And so, I think we have to give ourselves the grace to say, I'm not necessarily going to get it right the first time, but what did I learn? How can I do it differently the next time? And to try and change that mindset to having more fun. How many ways could I actually get this wrong? Allowing myself to get things wrong so that I can learn. Trying to do things in a way where you're sort of prototyping them. The Dyson vacuum, I think the ads talked about that there was 500 different versions of it right before one ever hit the marketplace. They prototyped and they kept trying till they found the right way. And so I think for us, if we can find whatever it is that you're working towards, if you can find a way of prototyping it, of doing something that feels a little less risky and just dipping your toe in the water and trying it, um, that you can take some of that fear out as well. So if you're interested in doing something, maybe you can find someone in your circle, or even further out in social media on LinkedIn, and ask them if you can talk to them about that new role that maybe you've never had it as a career, and start to ask those questions and to find out more information, because I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how
Mhm,
we can motivate ourselves. That's one way, reaching out social media or friends or something. But
mhm.
what are some other suggestions to motivate ourselves to do something that's important to us, but we can't seem to get started?
Oh, well, that's the thing. Motivation and action, they are, they live together, but sometimes one comes before the other. And I think most of the time it's action before motivation. So it's much easier again to sit on the couch and binge watch some TV and eat some potato chips or whatever it is that you like to eat, and that's a comfortable, easy place. But if I really do want to lose the 20 or 30 pounds that I know I need to lose, I have to get off that couch. And there is the motivation is not necessarily there. You have to sometimes force yourself to do things, but as you see yourself going to the gym, as you start to feel better, you start to find that you have more motivation and it keeps going. There are times when you're motivated before action. Sometimes, people can be highly motivated to say started their own business. And that motivation will lead to the action or to write a book, or you may have that desire and you can sit down and do it. And that leads to the action. So it's a it's cyclical. It sometimes it's just unfortunately we have to sometimes push ourselves to do that. And again, I think we do that by finding the simplest, easiest step that you can do it, rewarding yourself when you do it, finding accountability from the people around you to help you go when when you lose some steam, being compassionate with yourself when you don't necessarily go and do whatever that day, knowing that you're going to get up the next morning and try again. Um, you know,
Yeah, well, that's fascinating to me. You had mentioned writing a book, but to motivate yourself to rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it till you get it right is a different story than just saying, "Oh, I think I want to write that book," and then you maybe start it, but then having to motivate yourself after that. That requires outsmarting your brain. So, how do you outsmart your brain when your brain is saying, I'd rather sit on the couch or I'd rather not do that? What are the secrets to that?
I think outsmarting your brain is again is it's understanding how it works, and then finding ways to work against those things. So, I think outsmarting your brain can include understanding that you have that inner voice that's going to say, "Oh no, don't just do that tomorrow. Go sit on the couch and watch the next episode. You can write 10 pages tomorrow instead of 5 pages today, right?"
Mm,
Um, I think it's having then the response, having an affirmation or having a response to that inner voice that goes, no, I have promised myself that I'm going to do 5 pages today, so I'm going to do that. I think your why is incredibly important in that, because if it's one thing to write the book, but maybe that's as far as you need to go. Maybe you just have a story you need to get out of you. It's very different if you want that book to be on someone else's shelf, if you want someone else to read it, if you want it actually published. Then yes, it's a different process, because you want to iterate on it. You want the best possible product. So I think if you understand what the why is, then you will be that much more likely to iterate it on it, to make the edits, to keep trying until you think it's the best possible thing you can put out into the world. But I think, yes, I think things like affirmations, I think gratitude is an amazing way to outsmart your brain, and to put you into a positive place. It's certainly gratitude has been researched for a long time now, and it has such remarkable ways that it can change your life. I mean, it's changed mine over the last 2 years after a big loss in our life, and it is certainly helped me to remember that there is still a lot of positive in my life, even after a huge loss. And so, um, I've made it into a game with my 4-year-old. At night when he's lying in bed, I will ask him, what are the 3 things you're grateful for what from today? Because I want him to take that tool into his life. And I do that, so we do that together. It's a simple thing to add in, but over time, and most of these things are things that you need to do on a consistent basis, right, to actually see the benefit of them. But it reminds you of what you do still have, and it helps you to, I think, live a life in duality, because you can still be sad, but you can also be reminded of the things that are the positives in your life. So I think gratitude, people have certainly been, the research shows that people are much more productive. They are happier. If you're in a positive mindset, that you're able to get so much more done in your life, and you are able to find the motivation to achieve things. And then I think mindfulness is the third one that I'd say. Um, Mindfulness is just being aware in the moment of something. So you know, when you're having that sip of tea in the morning, actually being mindful of this moment that I'm having for myself, that is, that is for me, and I can hear the birds, and I can hear, I can hear the music, and whatever it is, it's with putting yourself into that place, and being mindful of the now, because we spend so much of our time living either in the past or in the future, and we forget about the present time. So, mindfulness is amazing at reminding you of where you are right now. Being appreciative of the view out your window, or that meal that you just had, and reminding yourself to be in the now. So those are some ways to train your
I think
brain.
that's wonderful because the
Yeah.
research on brains, left brain, right brain, I've been looking into this a lot. And if we just stay in our brain, sorry, planning, 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 we don't access the creativity that's right brain, which I
Hmm.
think we access when we have that gratitude
Yep.
and we feel the gratitude, we start going in much more into the creative side of the brain, right?
I've
Yeah.
also heard that I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I've also heard that gratitude people who are grateful live longer.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. Yeah. Our
Right.
minds are amazingly powerful. I saw it even, with my grandfather many years ago, who, when he was diagnosed with cancer, the approach that he took in believing that he would be okay, and really the positive attitude he had going into fighting cancer. They had given him, actually, the family did not tell him, but the doctors had said that he had about 2 months to live. No one told him that, and so
Hmm.
he, in his positive mindset, saying that he was going to fight this, ended up living another 2 years. So I think our minds are amazingly powerful, and if we can use them to our own benefit, and to live a better life, that's.
That's so nice that they stopped him from stop the doctors from telling him
Mhm,
because it can just drag you down.
it
But
can.
when would you say is the best time to make change happen in our lives?
Oh, the best time to make change happen in your life: now, tomorrow, always. I mean,
Right now?
Yeah.
the sooner the better, right? We
Like
we
during this podcast?
right
Yeah,
now, yes,
exactly.
right now. Yeah, there's always going to be an excuse, right? There's never really a perfect time to make change happen. Sometimes, life forces us to do that. For instance, the flood that happened in our house that finally forced us to renovate it. But I mean, most of the time, it's you have to make the first step, and so the longer you wait, it's just the longer before you get started, and it's the longer before you hit that dream that you have.
Right.
That and that is very wise. Yeah. Well, what if people how do they overcome not having a good support system if that is the case?
Support systems, yeah, they're crucial, I think. They don't have to be big, but I think you start by writing a list of probably the 5 to 10 people that you spend the most time with, and then look at that list of people and go, are these people who really would support me in whatever it is that I want to do next? Are they going to be the people that hold me up, or are they going to be the people that try to stop me? The ones that are saying, "Oh, maybe this is not the best idea for you," or "Now's not the right time," or whatever those things are. And then you look at that list, and you go, "Well, who comes along on this journey with me?" That doesn't mean you have to get rid of people, but who do I who do I open up to and actually tell that this is something I want to do? Again, like the book example. You might not want to tell everyone that you're about to write a book, but you may want to tell one or two key people in your life, because they're going to be interested and they're going to ask you about it. Maybe they want to read it. Maybe they want to help you edit it, whatever it is. But um, so I think you decide I think you'd be very careful about who you tell these things to. And then on that list, you look and see, are there gaps? Like, do I need to find new people in my life? do I need to join a writer's circle where I'm surrounded by people who are all excited about writing books? I'm going to be that much more likely to write the book if I'm surrounded by other writers, right? And then the people that, family members we can't get rid of, so we just maybe we don't tell them that that's what we're doing, right? We be very selective about who we share with. So, and if you don't have that support system around you, then I think you go out and find it, by joining groups or finding people who have similar interests, or yeah, making new friends who are going to help in that next step.
And some of
That's
that can be just done online too.
Yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
those kind of groups, you can find help and support. There are groups online you can post and get feedback and stuff. Not necessarily for writing a book, but of course,
right, for anything.
writing groups are very important for all the authors we've interviewed say they have one.
Hmm.
That's right.
Very,
Yeah, but
very
even
great.
a personal support system, that's you would recommend reaching out to friends and finding people who perhaps have gone through the same things that you have, I would gather.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you do try to find people who've had similar journeys. Finding someone who's done what you want to do, even better, right? Because if they can mentor you and can help you learn some of the lessons that they wish they'd learned, before they made the mistakes they made. So absolutely, if there's people in your life who, who've started a business and you're interested in starting a business, go and talk to them and see if they'll, mentor you, or be in your life as you start your business. Finding people who've been successful in the things that you want to do is a great motivator, because they can help you along the way.
And along
Absolutely.
those lines, I was going to ask you, you've given us some, but what is your main advice for us to live a more fulfilling life?
I
Your
I
best
think
advice for that.
I think it's to try and stay in a state of curiosity. I think if we stay
Oh,
curious, if we don't allow ourselves to slip into that comfort zone, if we're constantly curious, if we're looking to learn, if we're looking to grow, I think that's how we live a more fulfilling life. Um, I think of fulfillment as like a three-legged stool. That there's three legs, and if one of the leg is off, you're going to feel a little topsy-turvy. The first is engagement. Are you engaged in something in your life? It does not need to be. It doesn't need to be work. It could be hobbies. It could be any kinds of things. But do you feel engaged? Those are those moments in your life when you experience flow. Time ceases to exist. You're really, into something, and you're 100% there. You're present. The second is self-care. Are you doing things just for you? They can be small or large. Are you getting a massage occasionally? Are you going for walks, with yourself? Are you traveling? Whatever those things are that you consider self-care. And then the third one is giving back. Do you feel like you're giving back? And that doesn't necessarily mean giving money or volunteering, but in some way, are you helping others? I think those three areas, that if those are in balance, I think you will feel more fulfilled.
oh, I
Do you
love
have
that.
any personal stories you can recount to us about that?
About fulfillment?
Yeah, in your own life.
I you know I think that starting what's next has been really fulfilling for me. The work that I do with businesses, it's great, and I enjoy the people that I work with, and the problems that we solve. But oftentimes that doesn't hit the marketplace, or I don't see the fruition of my work for months or years. To me, helping people to figure out what they want to do next is very fulfilling, because in a very short period of time, my program's only 6 weeks long, but it's really in depth, and in that period of time, I see people shift. We break down mindset barriers. I help people get from unstuck to a place of being clear, and I see the progress for them, and the ahas that they have. For me, that's very fulfilling. And
Mm,
so, in the three-legged stool, that's both my uh, feeling engaged, but it's also a way of giving back, um, to
yeah.
others, and sharing the knowledge that I have.
That's
Love
great.
that.
Uh, you definitely touched on this, but what are good practices to keep us motivated in order to reach a goal?
I think that one of the most important things is to really curate what goes into your brain. So be mindful of what are you listening to, what are you reading, who are the people that are around you, what is the world that surrounds you, because that will ultimately affect your mindset. So if you're turning on the TV first thing in the morning and watching the news, you're already putting yourself into a very specific mindset that's likely
Yeah,
to go with you for the rest of the day. So I think uh, being mindful of what you're consuming is important. I think being mindful of especially how you spend those first few hours of the morning, because that'll set the tone for the rest of the day. So not grabbing your phone the second you wake up and checking your email, but taking some time to yourself and maybe going for a walk or journaling or meditating or any of those things that's going to set you off to a good start for the day. I think those are ways that you can help to keep yourself in a positive mindset, and help to keep you motivated to hit the goals that you have.
Such good advice. And
very.
what about if people are not happy with their lives and they feel stuck? How do we get unstuck?
Oh, I think unstuck. We first start by reacquainting ourselves with ourselves. Along the way through life, we take on things that can be other people's, and that's not to say that's a bad thing. I mean, in relationships and having children and spouses and bosses and friends, we take on other people's stuff, and somewhere along the line, we oftentimes will let go of a dream that we had because we've taken on a different dream. Maybe the dream of the family that you created. But I think it's important to start by going, what are the things that are most important to me? What's mine? What's someone else's? Um, what are the things that I when I was 20 wish that I had done, and maybe haven't, and all those things that I still want to do. Another thing within getting reacquainted with yourself is your values. When's the last time you wrote down what sort of your top five values were? I think they change over time. And again, we sometimes take on other people's values. When I work with younger people, that they're coming forward with values that they've learned from their parents. They aren't necessarily theirs. So I think if you were to take the time to, and you can Google values, lists of values, and you'll get a starter list. There's plenty of them out there. But look at those and what are your top five values? And then are those top five values things that you are yours? Are they things you want to keep? Are they values that are going to help you get to the next stage of your life? And if they aren't, what do you want to replace them with?
Hmm.
And then I think you need to sort of, uh, put those up somewhere where you see them. And I think that's a practice that you should do every few years, is to sort of really look at, do these still hold true? Are they still important to me? Are they still helping me get where I want to go?
I love the
Hmm.
idea of grabbing a list first off of Google or
Yes.
whatever
Hmm.
and honing it down, like zeroing in on it, kind of like that word game that they put on Facebook all over the place where they say first three words are your words for the year or the month.
Hmm.
And there are all these words that are all scrambled in there, but and you're just supposed to pick one. And
Hmm.
I love that. I love that idea of googling a list of values. I have
Yeah.
not heard that put that way before.
Well, you got to start. You got to start from somewhere, so it at least
Instead of
helps
trying
you
to
get
think of
going.
what they
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
We
and
all
then
have them already, but we don't necessarily put them into words like that.
and our values will underpin the sort of our beliefs, and our beliefs lead to the decisions that we make in our life. So if something's out of whack with your values, you may find that it's impacting your belief system, the decisions that you make. So I always think that that's a really good place to start.
Mhm.
Some people aren't even in tune with their own values because they've
Hmm.
come off learning their parents' values, and then where are they? They're thrown
Hmm.
out into the world.
Exactly.
How would you suggest people actually hone in on understanding their own values?
I mean, I think it is starting with that list and really reading through it, and it's probably going to be a process of crossing off everything that's an absolute no, and then looking at what's left and going, what are these five things um, that really stand out to me and ring true, right? That you're going to feel it. I think when you read it, like that's me, right? And then you look at that and go, well, is that the me that I want to be?
Hmm,
And
good
that might be where
advice.
you, because if say comfort and stability is a value that you have, but you're wanting to make this huge step of leaving the corporate world and starting your own business, those two things are at odds. And so
Absolutely.
so do you truly want to start the business? Yes, well then maybe that value is it's got to change. Maybe you've got to address what's really underpinning that value of stability and comfort. What's motivating and driving it, and are you okay with it being that way? Because maybe then you don't need to start a business, because starting a business is uncertain and can be unstable. It can feel very risky. So maybe you need to look at it another way. And it doesn't mean that you don't start the business. I've had clients who were who were uncertain about it, but knew they wanted to. Certainly the risk of it was hard. There are other ways you can start businesses. There's franchises out there which are, created systems and businesses that you could buy, that have support systems, that have people you can call when you have a question. That feels for some people like a lot less risky. It feels more comfortable. You can still be your own business owner, but you've got a support system that's helping you, with that company, because you're buying into that. So, there's always creative ways of doing things, but I think you have to certainly understand what's underpinning it. What are the values and what are the motivators that are under that?
Mhm.
A lot of people, women especially, have the feelings that they have that imposter syndrome. So, how do they gain self-confidence and how do they learn to believe more in themselves?
I think I am one for lists. I think you start by creating that list of all of your strengths. What are all of your strengths, and you don't let yourself off the hook by going, I don't have any. um, because because there's a variety of skills out there that aren't based in business. You can be a really great friend. You can be a good listener. You can be caring and giving of your time. What are all of your strengths? Um, and then I think you also do one that's weaknesses. But I think as we get it, into our 40s and above, those weaknesses are no longer things that I don't like to think of them as negatives. They're either areas that I never want to go into. So someone might say that their weakness is mathematics. Well, fine. You're never going to become an accountant. You're probably okay with that idea. Um, so I think the weaknesses can certainly show you that these are areas that I'm not interested in going into them, or I need to find someone who can take on that aspect of it if I am, say, starting a business, or even in running a household, right? If math is not something you love, then your spouse should probably pay the bills, or whatever those things are. I think it's always good to be aware of what you're good at and what you aren't.
Mhm.
Um, I think talking to friends, in my program, we start off with a survey that people actually send out to their friends, that asks questions around, what do you think that I'm good at? What are the areas that you think would be interesting that I should look into, or pursue?
Hmm,
What's a time that stands out to you? What's a story that stands out to you that you think is quintessential to the way that you think about me? And I think people, that one in particular, I think is really fun, because people get examples back from their friends. They're like, I had no idea that moment in time, that incident, has had such a profound effect on you and the way that you think about me. Um, and so I think some of those things can really help to remind you that you have so much to give to the world. Um,
That's a
and
good idea. It's like staging your own memorial
Mhm.
before you're gone.
There you
ooh,
go, just like
I
that.
wanna hear what you say about me while I'm still here, right?
yeah,
Like they do on TV. And I have one
Yeah.
last question. What would you like our listeners to have as their main takeaway today?
That you can do anything you set your mind to. That most of what stops us from reaching the goals and dreams that we have is internal. The stuff on the outside. There's always a solution for. You can always find a way. Um, but I think our mind is the thing that we have to work with the most. And anything is possible once you get your head into the right place.
That's
Lovely.
great. Thank you so much, Lauren. Our guest today on Late Boomers has been Lauren St. George, coach and consultant, founder of What's Next. You can find her on www.answerwhatsnext.com. You can visit there to book a call. Anyone who mentions our Late Boomers podcast will receive a 20% discount when they sign up for her program. Thanks so much for being here with us today, Lauren. That was wonderful.
And my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And we want to remind our listeners about our new YouTube channel called Late Boomers Podcast. Please subscribe to that and you can see us on video. Also, we are all on all podcast platforms and would love you to subscribe so you don't miss any of our weekly episodes. Please follow us on Instagram at Late Boomers and at I am Kathy Worthington and at I am Mary Elkins. We are working together to try to bring you the best content and interviews that we can find in order to help us all live our best lives. Thanks again, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Late Boomers, the podcast that is your guide to creating a third act with style, power, and impact. Please visit our website and get in touch with us at lateboomers.biz. If you would like to listen to or download other episodes of Late Boomers, go to ewnpodcastnetwork.com.
This podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and most other major podcast sites. We hope you make use of the wisdom you've gained here and that you enjoy a successful third act with your own style, power, and impact.